Hello, everybody. This is Paul Herman, the Prince of Motivation and host of Zaka Presents My Journey. We're creating this vulnerable and positive platform where you can get inspired and motivated from different leaders from our community. Today, our guest is my good friend, Michael Egan, DJ Spynfo, who is a professional DJ and also an entrepreneur. Michael, welcome to the show, man.
Yo. Thanks for having me, guys. What's going on? How y'all feeling?
We feeling good. We feeling good. I don't know if the listeners know, but me and Mr. Michael Egan, aka DJ Spynfo, we go way, 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 way back. You know what I'm saying? Growing up in the Bronx, from elementary school to DJing in the back and dancing in the backyards, to his college club king career, to the radio station, to traveling the world. This young man right here is an amazing entrepreneur, a good friend. So it's an honor to have you on the show and actually interviewing you.
Oh, absolutely. And I really appreciate you guys for having me.
All right. Well, let's dive in. I think one of the first things that the listeners want to know is like where you're from. I know we're in, the South Bronx, but could you tell us a little bit about, growing up in the South Bronx and also like your upbringing, like your family, your mother and father?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, man. So from the South Boogie down, Bronx, New York City. Family background, mother's side, Jamaican. My father was from Honduras, a small island called Rotan, and he was born in La Ceiba. But we grew up with a lot of Caribbean music, a lot of Latin music, a lot of soca. So that's always infused in my soul and my heart as a young child growing up, listening to a lot of good music. So I believe that was a big part of me becoming a DJ, just being around some good energy, good music as a child.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, growing up, you had other siblings as well, too. Could you tell us about growing up in that household?
Oh, yeah, man. I was the youngest of 9, 4 brothers, 4 sisters. The closest one in age is 13 years older than me, my sister Gina. And then I have Darren and so much more. I'm not going to list them all because I ain't going to remember, so it don't really matter too much. But ultimately, yeah, I was the youngest of 9. So I had a very unique household. Felt like I was living an episode of The Cosby's or something like that. It was very fun in my household. A lot of energy, a lot of laughter, a lot of good vibes. And I had multiple parents because everybody was, nobody was getting in trouble with me. They were watching me to make sure I wasn't getting in trouble because they was already beyond those stages that I was growing through.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, going through that, going back to your childhood and just talking about that, like having, that many siblings, did you ever feel like you were one of them was like that role model? Did someone kind of inspire you to kind of like pursue that DJing career, to pick up the turntables and start DJing? Or was it something that you start to do on your own and slowly your family members start to gravitate to it?
I didn't necessarily get inspired to DJ by any of them. They didn't really DJ. There was my brother Timothy actually did DJ when he was younger, but I never really witnessed that as I was growing up. But my father, to be honest, had a lot of records in the basement. And, when he would fry his plantain chips, play ping pong, he would play music in between, whatever it was, the Tiny Whinies and all the classic soca and calypso and things of that nature. And I think what really kicked things off in regards to me being a DJ was the fact that I played instruments as a child. I played the piano. My mother gave me piano lessons. And then when I transitioned as a young man, as a teenager, I went to Cardinal Hayes and I picked up the trumpet. So music was always around. I really understood how to count beats and melodies and things of that nature. So as time progressed, I picked up some turntables, same turntables with my father in the basement when I was about 18, 19 years old, playing for one of my niece's birthday parties, Dominique, and that really triggered it. I didn't know anything about DJing. Nobody around me was a DJ. All I heard was good music from my brothers and sisters, but they weren't DJs, So my father had all the records in the basement. And when I picked them up, I already knew how to count beats and already knew how to blend. It wasn't really like I needed a tutorial. I kind of had that already plugged into my brain for the simple fact that I played those instruments already. So it was kind of like second nature. And one thing led to the next, from the basement to St. John's and beyond.
And that's a very interesting way of putting it. Like, yeah, obviously, there's no one being the youngest of all, not having someone to kind of like, okay, this is the ropes. Let me show you this. You actually did this right off on your own, And I know sometimes, being the youngest, it might get down to no, you got to follow your brother and sister. Your brother and sister already paved the way for you, but you were like, look, I'm gonna create my own lane, and you created that lane. And I remember one of the first, to the listeners, one of the first times, Brian, my brother, and I got to dance and actually perform was when Spynfo was like, "Look, guys, I don't know even if it was Dominique's party, but it was something. It was a backyard party. It was on Teller Avenue. That's where my grandmother was, and that's where Michael grew up at in the Bronx. And I remember, I never will forget it. It was Maya and Jay-Z, and it was a song, Yes, Y'all, Jigga Man Be Ballin'. And Spynfo started DJing, and Brian and I were, before that, we were a little nervous to kind of get out there and dance. But it was like, that was our first big performance together, the three of us. And I never will forget it. I'm always forever grateful that, everyone was like, oh, Michael's, he's playing music. Oh, wait, Paul and Brian, they dancing? Like, what is this? And it became like a sensation every summer. I remember our summer days. Let's talk about our little summer days, man. Those days of playing basketball on the court to going back to the backyard.
The crate.
We was on a crate playing ball. And then Spynfo would go right into the garage, open up the garage and start DJing. Like, how'd you feel like at that point? It felt like we were in the Sandlot, if that was the case. And I'm saying, how did you feel about that at that point in time? Like, growing up, knowing that you potentially were going to be embarking on something that was going to be life-changing for you.
Yeah, I mean, at that point in time, I had no idea how far it was going to take me. It was just doing something. It was a hobby. It was something that I did for leisure. Like I said, it was just something that I really enjoyed. I loved finding new, unique ways to blend music together. The first blend that I ever made was like a hip hop record with a soul record. It was like Method Man and Redman, The Goodness, with the song called Sugar Boom, which is like a very unconventional mix, but it worked out somehow. But being in the backyard, it was just fun. It was us, the family, friends on the block. Had the amplifier shutting off every like hour and a half over the evening. That was dope.
Right, that's right.
Really reflecting on those throwback days and just realizing how fast time has moved, how much progress we've made in these 20 years, really. That was like 99, 2000. This is like when I started DJing, it was like the tail end of high school. And then I ended up buying my own turntables, playing around in my basement, and then, transitioned to St. John's University. And that's where things really started to springboard once I, brought those turntables to my dorm rooms. It was a great time.
Now, throughout all of this, I know that's one of the big things that the listeners might want to, hear from you is that, did you ever feel discouraged, like along the way? Obviously, you have, your family members, your mom and dad are, very strict within certain areas of their lives, and obviously their children's lives. So like, as a young youth coming up, did you ever feel like discouraged to be like, look, no one's really supporting at this point in time. I don't have any resources. I don't have any tools. I don't have a mentor. Did you ever feel like this might not be the path for you?
To a certain extent, to be honest with you, it was more of an afterthought. Like, that was never really on my mind much. I was just living in the moment, man. I'm in college. That's when things really started to pop off. When I was in college, out here drinking Long Island iced teas, chasing girls, and I'm the DJ on campus. I'm like the guy. I'm the man on campus to a certain extent. Like, everybody knew the DJ, especially during that time, because you had to really DJ to stand out. You had to really buy records to stand out. So I really didn't have like a window or a chance to really doubt myself. I just saw the progress happening so fast from 2000 to about 2004, in the beginning stages of my college career, like from me DJing little poetry nights to fashion shows to about 2004, I'm DJing at all the different campuses all around the tri-state area, going out to Princeton and Hofstra, Rutgers. So to be honest, those thoughts never really crossed my mind, but I did have, hesitation in regards to like, yo, is this going to be permanent? Because, we grew up in a household, everybody's like, father's like, you need health insurance, you need to do this, you need to become a firefighter because it's a stable job, you need to do this, you need to do that. But at the end of the day, you can't blame them. They come from a different era where they didn't take as many risks. It was more about just straight as an arrow, do it this way because this is guaranteed to work. Like, if you get this degree, you can definitely get a job over here. Or if you go over here, you can definitely get a job as a teacher or a principal or whatever the case may be. So, nothing against them. They just never really had the chance to think outside of the box. But you got to realize wherever they came out of, but they didn't really even have the opportunity to sit on a bus or ride the plane the way they wanted to. So there was a lot of limitations in their lives, and they kind of, that might have affected the way they believed in us or spoke to us, or because we could have used that extra motivation as a child, and things would have probably happened a lot faster if it was just like, do whatever you want to do as long as it's legal and pushing us in the right direction to become entrepreneurs. True. I think, that's what we ended up being without even knowing that we were going to be that, because we were on a path to becoming, just workers, which is fine too. Nothing's wrong with that, but that was the path that we were reared to be in because of the way the system works and the way that our parents kind of looked at the world.
True. I mean, obviously Caribbean background, family members, like you got to be a lawyer, doctor, fireman, like you said. And when you talk about entertainment, right, just in general, like being a DJ, it doesn't come with that 401k or the health coverages and, the dental. So, life insurance, you got to think about all these things. And your parents are probably like, look, look, follow the system. It worked for me, worked for your mother. But you constantly kept pushing forward with it. And one thing I appreciate you about, during those times of us growing up, like you never really forced anything. A lot of this stuff came organic. And, you touch base a little bit about St. John's. I mean, being the college club king, like what was like one of the hardest challenges? I mean, obviously going to school full time and then also DJing, like how did you juggle that? What was like one of the hardest challenges you had in St. John's?
I would say just trying to stay focused on my work. Being 20, 19, girls, music, having parties almost every Friday is a deadly combination when you're trying to get your education. So I wasn't really paying attention much in school. I was passing, I wasn't soaring through my classes. I was getting by, doing what I needed to do to get me a nice little C plus, a little B, whatever the case may be. So I think that was challenging when I had papers and things of that nature. I would rather promote my event. I would rather throw flyers into people's doors. I would rather, when things like Facebook popped off, that was like, oh my God. That's a godsend. Like, oh my God, they giving me access to everybody. All I got to do is start clicking on names. Like, what? I don't got to walk around the rooms anymore.
That's right.
Yeah, like the technology started happening, and I was paying attention. YouTube, all these different things, all these various platforms that allowed us to connect to people so much faster. That's where my head was at. Once I decided and made a decision, I would say in the late, 2007, 2008, I made a decision that this is the path that I really wanted to take, because I was still juggling my career and considering something else. I didn't know what that something else was going to be. And then, my friend, one of my good friends, Mike, on the way to Canada one time, he's like, hey, you should try and get on the radio. And it didn't even dawn on me like, yo, that's a possibility to try to do something like that. And from that moment, I started trying. I started putting together proposals and started, driving around and acting like I'm in the radio, like I'm on the radio, talking to myself like, yo, this DJ Spynfo on the network, acting like I was live on the radio. And then one thing went to another. So it's kind of crazy how life works out.
And that's one thing about you. You are a visionary. You know what I'm saying, you really do put it into fruition. Like when you see something, you just believe in it and you just go through it and you go for it, and I feel like that's something I've watched you do over the many years. And I remember when you were getting those proposals for Hot 97, I think that was that big break right after college. You were just telling me like, look, Paul, I think I'm gonna try and get to this radio. And Hot 97, for the listeners, I know this is worldwide platform. It's one of the largest radio stations that's out on the East Coast, obviously mainly in New York and stuff, that tri-state area. And when I remember when Spynfo used to show me the proposals, like you did a phenomenal job of just putting these things together, and you're doing it from scratch. Like when you were in college, just refresh my memory. What was the major again?
I was a communications and business minor.
Okay, we'll see. Some of those things obviously did apply when you were doing this. Like, how'd you feel applying to Hot 97, knowing that you potentially were going to be on the radio with some of the premium DJs from across the world?
I just kept my poise. I knew what I had to offer. I knew the grind and the time that I put in, and I knew that my path and my journey was very unique to the city. The College Club King route, like just creating various branding methods that actually work. Like when I was saying I was the College Club King, that was what it was. There was no DJ dominating the college market like myself. I was doing all the big homecomings. I was doing all the fashion shows. Not to say every single one, but I was recognized from Yale University all the way down to certain schools in Alabama and DC and things of that nature. So I think once I put the proposal together, it was really just taking the time to highlight all the different things that they may not have known, whether it was my dominance in the college market, or the things that I were doing with like shows like Mic Check Wednesdays or the producer battles, Webster Hall, like that was the biggest nightclub in New York City, still is. I think
Yep. Still Webster. Shout out to Webster.
Yeah, Webster Hall, the biggest nightclub in the city, and then me just forming a team or just being aligned with the right team to bring consistent, high energy, impactful, life-changing event every Thursday where people left in awe. People are coming to parties paying the same price and seeing Wyclef, seeing Rihanna, seeing J. Cole, seeing ASAP Ferg, seeing Remy Ma, seeing everybody, seeing Busta Rhymes. And literally, like, when you're 18, 19, 21, whatever the case may be, and you come into an event, these events have a lasting impression. So I got backed by a lot of that good energy and people just remembering how hard I went to be consistent and bring something dope for the younger generation, for the younger crowd, for a younger audience that was fun and safe and just different, where people just came and left in peace. People came and they partied, they wild out, and everybody went home. We never had no issues. I was there for 5 years at Webster Hall. We never had no issues, no shootout.
Yeah, I remember pulling up. I remember pulling up and seeing you on that stage, and I used to be like, "Yo, this dude right here got the crowd pumping." Like, and it was and I believe it's obviously I believe it starts at the top. You created the energy in the building, and Webster Hall is a massive establishment, guys. Massive establishments. I mean, you have up to a couple thousand people in the building in attendance, and you know, from DJing in the hallways. I mean, let's talk about the hallway parties at St. John's, to going all the way to Webster Hall, to traveling the world. Like, you've done stuff that was never above you, never below you. You were always humble in every experience that you were able to obtain. Do you feel that any of the principles or the thought process or the structure that your mom and father had provided to you, being an immigrant family, did you feel like that kind of helped navigate you through all of this?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I mean, came from humble beginnings. My father, the father that I knew when I was a child, just remember him being the janitor at a bank. He worked at Dollar Dry Dock, and then he transitioned to Emigrant Savings Bank. Super humble, super chill. Just want to have fun and laugh, and do his job. Come home, cook some food, play some ping pong, watch some Matlock. And he always just treated everybody with respect. He always found a way to crack a smile or make someone crack a smile, or whatever the case. So, I was just around that good energy as a child. And then ultimately, as I got older, like, I didn't even know, my father was the janitor when I was growing up. But the reality of it is, before I was born, he was boss man. And he didn't he didn't carry himself like he was above anybody, but he had an amazing position at the UN for somebody that was Black in the 1960s and 70s. This dude was around presidents and all sorts of government officials at the biggest dinners all around the country. He had his office here. He had an office in Puerto Rico. He had an office in Baltimore, like literally, like, in newspapers and things of that nature. And you would never know because he was just a janitor. Like my father had me when he was older, 57 years old. So he just looking for something else to do. He wanted to stay occupied. He didn't want to stay home with my mom all day and catch a couple arguments. So he needed to keep his hands busy, and he had talents. He had multiple talents. He was a jack of all trades, man of many talents. So he stayed busy by just being the maintenance man at the bank. And that's who I grew up knowing, the maintenance man, this humble guy. But when I got older, like into my pre-teens, I started realizing, like, yo, this guy, he's doing what he's doing because he's bored. He could be doing anything he wants to do. He's been a boss, and he doesn't act like a boss. So just being around that and understanding that, I think the key to life is really building a network, treating people fairly, making sure that you become as knowledgeable as possible in whatever craft or whatever it is that you're diving into. because my father probably couldn't even spell spaghetti. I probably can't spell spaghetti. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have a formal education, but for some reason, because of the way he moved, the way he treated people, he was able to excel beyond many of his peers and attain positions that you would never see back in the 60s and 70s. And he stayed humble. He never was talking smack. He never made it seem like he was better than anybody because of his position. And when I say that he was doing his thing, he was doing his thing for that time, for that era. Like he had a great position. So
yeah.
same thing with my mom. You know, my mom, super humble, cool lady that just loved to play her piano and take care of the family. So, you know, being around all that, people that aren't like with their nose in the clouds, I guess that really kept me grounded.
Yeah, no, it definitely did, man. I remember those days where it would get a little dark outside. Literally, the garage door will open up, and your father or your mother would come out, and they wouldn't even say anything to us. They would just give us that look, like, And we're like, okay, we're wrapping up, Mr. Egan. Don't worry. We're gonna turn the music off. And you're like, yo, we gotta get one more track and we gotta get one more song. And people are like, yo, Michael, can we get one more song? Nah, man, I gotta cut it, man. My father told me I gotta cut it. Now you DJing parties until the wee hours of the night, going into the morning. Could you talk a little bit more about your traveling? Like I know that you've had some amazing experiences traveling around the world. Could you tell the listeners a couple of the places you visited?
Oh man, you know, Miami, Atlanta, DJed in Jamaica multiple times. I've DJed in Brazil, Bahia. I've DJed in Finland. I've DJed in Kenya multiple times. I've DJed in Ghana. My favorite place to DJ is Japan. I haven't been there in a few years, but Japan, they really embrace the hip hop culture. They love to dance. They love to party. So I've been very blessed. Like I started traveling heavy, maybe like 6 years into my career. Like to be a DJ without a manager, without a hit record, without like some major branding. I was just, you know, DJ Spynfo Michael Egan from St. John's at the time. And at the present time when I started traveling heavy, I was just transitioning to the club scene from the college scene. So, you know, I had found some really unique partnerships that believed in me and wanted to expose me to their audience all around the globe. And that really worked out. And it was super dope, you know, getting paid to travel because I love to travel.
Nah, true that. That's one thing. Your passport is definitely stamped up, man. I don't know if you got like 2 or 3 of them already.
Yeah, definitely like 4 or 5 to be honest. Definitely 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's been and being from the Bronx, a melting pot. Like obviously you grew up around several different types of cultures and stuff like that. How did you feel like traveling now instead of seeing the culture in a small scale, like being in like Little Italy in the Bronx, but going to like a place like Italy itself and being like in the actual place, like being, obviously DJing, Caribbean music, soca and calypso and stuff, but then going to Jamaica and being like where the roots, where it all came from. Like, how did it feel to make that connection finally?
Oh man, uh, lack of a better word, just awesome, just dope. You know, having an opportunity to travel and just see the world from a different lens. Growing up in the Bronx, you know, I think the average person just becomes very what's the word? I can't even think of the word right now. But you're not as open-minded, for lack of a better term, until you travel, until you realize that we're all human beings, and it doesn't really matter what race, what color your skin, what religion. Like the reality of it is, the average human just wants to have fun. The average human just wants to be happy, and that applies to anybody. It don't matter if you're in Cambodia. It don't matter if you're in Russia. The average person. Now you get all twisted up with the politics, and now social media has ranked it up a lot to create this more divisive environment. But ultimately, like traveling definitely exposes you to so many different types of people that have different backgrounds and completely different stories, but they're all similar in the capacity that they just want to be happy and they just want to do the right thing. They're trying, they're striving to figure things out, and you kind of see that all across the globe. Whether you're in Dubai, whether you're in California or Minnesota, like everybody is trying to like work towards something better. And I think music is one of those unifying things. It's one of those experiences that we can all share, that we can all speak about, that we can all actually have a similar feeling over, because music, it's beyond the way it sounds. It's really about how it feels. And that's why there's certain artists that penetrated the globe. Say, for instance, a Frank Sinatra or Bob Marley. Just think about Bob Marley during his era. Like, they just started printing records maybe a few decades before Bob Marley popped off. And he was able to send a message of love across the globe in a time span that was faster than the Bible. Like that everybody knew who Bob Marley was within a year or two. People in New Zealand to Uganda to Germany, and he was able to push a message that was so unifying and that people can all align with. And I think that's the dope part about music, where you can send a message and kind of really tweak the mental of folks and steer them in a certain particular direction so that they can feel better, or they, have a lot more hope and aspiration. So I love traveling to share that, to play music, to inspire, to know, going into a space or going into an environment and knowing that, oh yeah, they're about to feel so much better. Because a lot of times people are trying to escape whatever they're dealing with when they're around good music. And that applies to everybody.
Yeah, that's music. That's why, like, I feel like I've connected to it so much, and I'm always blessed to have relationships like this where you're like, we're constantly pushing each other to develop ourselves. Like, could you talk about that pressure you have? Being from an immigrant family, being the youngest of all your siblings. The pressure you have as a young Black male. Developing his craft and becoming a leader. Like, how does it feel to know that you're holding a lot on your back? Not just your family, but not just your community, but you're talking about from the colleges, from the clubs, to the people, to the networks, to the families, the lives, the countries you have touched. Like, how do you feel waking up every day knowing that you're a leader?
Oh man, how do I feel right now in this moment? I definitely know that the magic source and the path to achievement and to success is to, one, believe in yourself, two, to have a plan, write it down, rehearse it, revisit it, dream about it, continue to chip away at it every day, every moment, every hour. And that's the route, to unlocking things for yourself, more importantly for your family, staying on the path and staying true to yourself, making sure that you have a team of those who believe in your passion and your project just as much as you, that are going to help you fulfill and execute. But the pressure was on, but I never really focused too much on the pressure. I move at my own pace. And like I said, in this present moment, as a young adult with a child and a home and a business, I just take it as it comes. I know that I'm not perfect. I know mistakes are going to happen. So I try my best not to freak out if things do occur. And I find the best way to mitigate any mistakes or any imperfections. But once you realize, like, listen, you're not perfect. You're a human being. And you're just out here doing the best that you can do. And every year you just want to see yourself become better. Every year you want to be able to reflect on your past and say, oh, I remember when I was doing this, or I remember when I was on Hot 97, I remember when I was doing, backyard parties, whatever the case, and look where I'm at now. Look, I'm over here flying to Vegas, or I am texting J. Cole before his album release, or, just maintaining really solid relationships and watching your life and those folks that you love and care about lives around you blossom with you, and creating opportunities for other people. I think one of the paths to success and one of the things that allow you to become more fulfilled is by creating opportunities for other people. So when you're just aligned with that, the universe is going to take care of the rest. So
that is true. And I know we believe in the universe, and like, it is obviously, the opportunities that do arrive from it. Now, as the entrepreneur that you are, right? You've been able to develop several different businesses. You've been able to help other people leverage themselves to develop their businesses. Could you talk about that experience?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I keep good people around me. I feel like I have a pretty good eye for some talent. Got a team of dope DJs, wedding DJs that roll with me, where we just communicate and share information consistently, and we've all just grown so much. We're just definitely trying to, because I'm in the wedding circuit now as well. So really just trying to secure that scene. You can't I don't want to say the word take over, but I want us to be the first choice when it comes to these types of special events, whether it's weddings, anything in the private industry, So at the end of the day, I just plug and play. and we just share information and just keep going and keep pushing. I think that's just the key right there. Like just to share information, don't worry about how is it going to apply to you or what's the kickback, how much you're going to get paid. That stuff will come later. Just do what needs to be done with those that you trust, those that have shown you that they're good people and they're solid humans, solid individuals. Once you just align with their passions, once you connect the dots with your passions and you just swing the bat, you could be blindfolded, and you're going to knock the ball out the park eventually. You keep swinging, just keep swinging.
Mm-hmm.
And we all, everybody in my circle, we've all reaped the benefit from each other. I'm not opening up no particular doors specifically for any one individual. It's just a universal thing, and the cycle just continues. And they help me, I help them, and it's just a win-win for everybody. And I think people just need to be less calculated and just do the good things and do the good deeds just because they need to be done.
That is true. I mean, the world is a crazy place, and obviously with what's going on now with, from politics to finances to numbers to the pandemic, there's a lot of stress and struggles within this community, and you provide an outlet for people. Like you said, like when you DJ, you want people to feel that love. Like your message is not being just heard from the South Bronx, it's being heard across the world, to several different communities. And every place leaves out of there like, Spynfo, you need to come back. You need to come back. And it's like, and you being loyal and you being who you are, you always do manage to find a way back to these individuals and to these communities. It's not like, I'm gonna do my thing, get my money, and keep it moving. It's more like, let's build something together. And you've been doing a wonderful job of building some things. Can you talk about a little bit about this establishment? It's recently, guys, I took my pops down to Spynfo's soft opening of his new establishment, which is actually in the South Bronx itself. Like, could you talk to the listeners a little bit more about like, how did you develop this concept and opening this place? Because you've been able to travel to so many different establishments, right? But this is the first time right now where you're able to actually launch your own establishment and bring that energy to one place. Like, talk about that.
Oh yeah, no, dope. We're on that path right now. Big shout out to Sankofa House and the team. It's a new establishment in the South Bronx. The mission statement is expanding our collective consciousness through entertainment, education, and love. Just trying to spread love, trying to create a platform where folks in the South Bronx can get access to new information. On the educational side, we're going to focus mainly on science, literature based on financial literacy and health education, which are three factors and three components that I think, people with our shade of skin need to be more aligned with, because the world is moving fast and we really need to find better routes to maintaining our health. We need to find better routes to building wealth. We need to find better routes to understanding how the real world works. So science is like a big part of it. Like I feel like a lot of us are just lacking in those realms, and there's too much information out there now, and there's too much good information for us to be missing it. So Sankofa House is a dope venue where people are going to be able to throw birthdays and weddings, proms, financial panels, college graduations, private dinners, movie screenings, Super Bowl parties. We can do everything at Sankofa House, but the main objective is just for community and for people to come together and find creative ways to help the community move forward. I want Sankofa House to expand beyond the Bronx. We're starting in the Bronx because that's my home, and I have so much love for it. But I've traveled so much, and I've seen so many corners of the globe that are just moving in the right direction, just moving so much faster. Whether you go to Dubai, or you go to Amsterdam, or you go to China, you're just like, people are just on another wavelength right now. People are really coming together and just having fun and creating dope stuff. We don't have dope stuff in the South Bronx, and it's up to us. We can't sit back and complain, there ain't nothing in the Bronx, or, people in Brooklyn, hey, I ain't going to the Bronx. So we got to give them a reason, so there was an opportunity there. And I realized, throughout the pandemic, I had an opportunity to really sit back and reflect on who I am and what I personally think was needed in the neighborhood. And Sankofa House just came back around to me. Sankofa, which is a African proverb, which means go back and get it. In order to move forward, you have to retreat from your past. It's a proverb that originates in Ghana, an Indian symbol with a bird that flies forward with its head looking backwards. while his head is looking backwards, it's still trying to gauge um, its new path based on information that it retrieves from the past. So I just thought the concept was super dope. I think that we're living in an era where we all need a little Sankofa in our life so we don't make the same mistakes. We definitely need it within our government because, there's a lot of crazy things happening in my borough. People still getting locked up. They still trying to mitigate crime with cameras and locking people up, putting them in Rikers. Like, what's up with the schools? What's up with the programs? You can't pull, recess. You can't pull sporting opportunities. You can't pull sports from the schools. You can't take away all the fun activities for the kids, whether it's laser tag or Dave and Buster's, or there's nothing for a teenager to do in New York City really, like right now. And people are screaming about the crime and things of that nature, but we need to get involved and, push those government officials to do the right thing, because the right thing is making sure people are well educated. That's the primary goal. That's how you have a more civilized society. That's where it starts, like making sure that everybody's educated and gets a free, it's not exclusive, but a free, well-deserved education from top to bottom, so that we can all just move forward. That's how we can all just coexist when that happens. So, Sankofa House is just here, and I plan on, bringing this thing to Ghana. I want to bring this thing to Seoul, South Korea. I want to bring this thing to Arizona. I want Sankofa House to be something comparable to, like, when you see a Starbucks pop up and you're like, all right, this neighborhood's about to change. All right, this neighborhood's about to change. So Sankofa House is the Black-owned, well-run business. And when you know that this thing pops up in your neighborhood, the community's gonna start coming together for the most unique events, for the little kid's birthday, for grandma's 90th, for such and such graduation celebration, whatever the case. But it's just a community establishment with all the necessities that you're gonna need to run a super dope private event. So that's the baseline. But it's beyond that. It's more community, more sharing information, more exposing people to various books, so that when Thanksgiving comes around, we at Thanksgiving dinner talking about what books we read that year, and we're talking to each other and saying like, "Yo, this is the book that I suggest." That's what we as a community need to be doing, So if I can find a creative way to spark that, that would be dope. And I'm just one man, with an idea and a dream, and we all just got to dream big at this point. The world is moving extremely fast, so dream beyond your current circumstances. Just dream about it, write about it, then do it. That's one of the Sankofa codes that I wrote down. It's something that I just kind of created in the midst of me putting together this concept. Dream about it, write about it, do it.
I respect that. You've been doing it ever since birth, man. Back in the 80s, growing up, to where we are right now is, young men, entrepreneurs, if you're just looking back at your career, just like you said to the listeners, you started off in the backyard just with a turntable and really not a mission or a dream at first, but it just started to cultivate itself with the energy. Something that the listeners could take away from this interview is that you always keep good energy around you. And I feel like the good energy, you being a father, having an amazing wife, to, that's staying at home, the community first, and then going outside of that community, going to like your college club friends, the DJs that you work with, like you always kept tight circles in your career as you continue to go on. Even with the artists that you work with, there's a lot of artists that you work with from across the world that you still stay in contact with, and you still make those collaborations. I know ourselves, you've been able to, plug away with Brian and myself on several different opportunities where we got to actually dance or even perform on stage with you. So it's been a blessing to see and witness this unfold, and your visions, your dreams, and like you said, with the Sankofa House, like what you got going on over there is an amazing thing. The fact that you're able to travel the world, grab all this information, and then come back to giving back to your community, that's a big thing. I always tell people, you're not an artist unless you give back, and you're not just giving back just with one hand. You're giving back with two hands and then some, and you're bringing a lot back to the listeners and to the community. So obviously, as a man of color, and as a leader within our community, I just want to say again, Spynfo, phenomenal work. Congratulations on all your success. Like, this is just chapter 3 probably of a massive novel that you were writing. And yeah, I'm so blessed to know that I'm reading it and also helping you write it and you helping me write my book as well too. So it's been a blessing. I just want to give one last question to the listeners because I really feel like they need to, connect with you a little bit more on this one right here. Like if there's something you could pass on right now to our Zaka community, right? There's these listeners that are out there right now. They have heard your story. They heard about, your upbringing to where you were when you were in college to out of your big break out of college to where you are now, opening your own business and establishment. What is, a word of advice that you would give to these listeners, these people of, from all over the world? What would you recommend?
I would say first and foremost, mitigate the distractions. Make sure you keep people, like-minded people around you that are going to help fulfill you, that are going to help motivate you, that are going to help support you. Extract the distractions. That's what I meant to say. Extract the distractions. Minimize distractions. There's a lot of things that we probably do routinely that aren't as important to the success of your life, success of your business, that don't really align with your goals and aspirations. Whether it's, you could be watching Netflix specials and, the throwback Game of Thrones or Squid Games and all that dope stuff that's on TV right now. I never get a chance to watch any of that stuff because I'm so embedded in what I want to do next. There's too much information. There's too much stuff happening. It's too fast. The cryptocurrency, stock market is moving. I want to change my life. I want things to be great for my son. I want to be able to do whatever I want when he's like 18 years old, when he's in college, if he needs a car, if he wants to take a rocket ship into outer space, which he's already plotting on. He's 4 years old. By the time he's 18, I already put it out there. Like in 14 years, if Jeff Bezos and the rest of these dudes can do it in 14 years, I should be able to afford that. And I think that, just thinking outside of the box and realizing that that's a possibility. If I line my ducks up right now, there's a high probability that on his 18th birthday, me and my son gonna blast off real quick. We're gonna eat a bagel, and we're gonna strap up in the rocket, and we're just gonna go out into outer space real quick. And that's just how I think. I just like, yo, we just gonna go up there real quick, like, into outer space. Like, yeah, why not? Like,
don't forget the plantain chips.
Yo, straight up. And the fact that that's a real possibility because technology is moving at an exponential rate right now, man. We grew up with tape decks and freaking Super Nintendo and all this stuff. Now we're watching TV on our phone. We can have our own TV show on our phone with IG Live. Like everybody has their own TV station at this point. And back in the day, we had freaking antennas. That was just 25 years ago, trying to get a signal. Now everybody got a signal. So what do we do with that signal? Do we pump nonsense out? Do we absorb nonsense? Do we absorb things that don't nourish our soul and nourish our dreams? Or do we surround ourselves with all this good information, man? One of the things that I realized that this generation, or just people in general, don't take enough time to understand the moment that we're living through. Like we're very lucky to be live right now. Just 100 years ago, 120 years ago, there was no planes. There was none of this electricity was there, right? You lighting a fire to cook your food. You ain't have hot water. Most kids were dead before they turned 5 years old. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have modern medication. People were dying from toothaches and fevers back in the day. So we got so many things that we should be grateful for because we have access to so much. And there's no reason not to know anything. You type it in YouTube, you type it in Google, you say, hey, Siri, how do I make lasagna? Hey, Siri, how do I fix this pipe? Hey, Siri, how do I install such and such? Man, the first 2 or 3 videos are the answer. That's just where it's at. It's like right in your phone. It's right with you. So sometimes people are like, I don't know how to cook. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do it. Like, how? If you're walking around with the world in your pocket, you have access to everybody. Right now, every day, I'm communicating with people in China at the speed of light, trying to get various chairs and tables for my spot because they have the best rates. You know what I'm saying? Everything's coming from China anyway, but now there's apps like Alibaba and Made in China where you can talk directly to the people in the factories, which is crazy. You know what I'm saying? So I'd rather do that because these little steps that I'm taking right now, I see the progress that's being made. Who would have thought I would have been able to open up this establishment within a year? And this is just me, and it's not like bragging or like that. It's just, man, like I walked into the building, had an idea, sort of jotting it down, and now a year later, I'm almost done with at least getting it open. And I learned so much throughout this process. And all the information, all the intel that I absorbed from my mistakes and the things that I did, I'm going to be able to apply to something else in the near future. So, things don't have to be perfect. Just get started, write it down, dream about it, do it, and don't worry about it. If your intentions are pure, The doors will open up, and the universe is going to give you what you need. But you got to wake up every day wanting it. You can't wake up every day stopping and starting and waste time doing something that doesn't apply to you. You got to put efforts towards whatever that goal is every single day. And it sounds like it's hard, but it's really not, because you should be aligning and putting your energy towards things that you really love. So that it doesn't feel like work anyway. You just like, man, this is just part of my natural day. It's just like eating
Yeah.
food. This is just like, taking a shower. This is just part of my daily day-to-day routine. And then as this routine continues to expand, you just see, wow, look how much progress I'm making. And it don't feel like work. It's just, this is love. This is what I'm doing because this is who I am. Like, what else am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to wake up every day and come up with creative ideas for events or whatever the case may be. This is just what I've been doing since 18 years old. So
No, it is amazing to hear you speak of it in this way, this caliber. I know that the listeners would definitely abstract that what you said. Like I like what you said, abstract the negative, and distractions, like really just push that all to the side. I know sometimes we focus up on those things in our growth process, but knowing that there's a lot more positive to come, or we're experiencing, we're kind of like selling ourselves short on our blessings and our opportunities because we're so busy focusing on that. And I know obviously being of an immigrant family, it is very hard to struggle, coming to America, trying to establish yourself as a family, trying to support your family and give them the best understanding. And now you doing the same thing for your family as well, and really trying to, you could see the difference from the generation, from your father's time to your time, and what you're doing now currently to kind of, it's like every opportunity to learn about yourself and grow as an individual to then provide for a larger community, you're definitely embarking on. So I think if there's something that viewers are going to listen up to and gravitate to, just know that, there's so much information out there for us right now. And you just got to know where to find it. But if not, just taking the time just to kind of research. So Spynfo, man, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you again from the bottom of my heart. My brother, my cousin, my family member for life. I mean, we've been through a lot, and
yeah,
we have a lot more to come. And I'm blessed to have seen you open up your establishment. I'm blessed to know that Brian was able to help you kind of develop some of those things inside of there as well too. And it's just been an amazing journey. And I'm blessed to know that we're still on it together, and we're still pushing each other. So Spinfo, thank you so much for being on the show today.
yo, bless up, my brother. Thank you so much for having me. Pure vibes, good times, and let's continue to dream big and swing the bat as hard as we can. Let's do it.
If you want to hear about more stories like Spinfo, check us out on ZakaConnect.com or follow our feed Zaka, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you again, Spinfo, for just joining us, man. I look forward to following your journey and the listeners as well, too, man.
Bless up, man. Thanks for having me, bro.